Hey everybody, Blaine here for Bridge4 Games. Welcome to another episode of Gaming Explained. Today we're talking about the most popular dragon in the world that's not a dragon at all. Today we're talking about Charizard. Now as we all know, Charizard is one of the most popular Pokemon ever, but a lot of people are puzzled when they realize it's not a dragon Pokemon and is in fact a fire-flying Pokemon. So why is this? After all, a winged lizard that can fly around and breathe fire is typically how most dragons are portrayed these days. So why isn't Charizard a dragon Pokemon? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. But before we jump into tackling this 25-year-old mystery, I just want to take a second to ask that if you like the videos we produce here on the channel, please make sure that you actually like them by hitting the thumbs up button. Also, consider subscribing to the channel to make sure that you never miss any awesome videos like this one. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's get back to Charizard. To an average fan of the Pokemon franchise, making Charizard a dragon Pokemon would seem like a no-brainer. After all, it does look like a dragon Pokemon, and there's a ton of Pokemon that are dragon type that, don't. But as it turns out, there's actually a number of reasons that Charizard was made into a fire-flying type Pokemon rather than a dragon type Pokemon. First of all, Charizard is the final evolution of Charmander, one of the starter Pokemon from the Kanto region back in Gen 1. As we all know, for starters, there's typically one fire Pokemon, one water Pokemon, and one grass type Pokemon. This creates a triangle of super effective attack types in which fire is weak to water is weak to grass, and grass is in turn weak to fire. Back in Kanto in Gen 1, when your rivals weren't your best friends the way they are nowadays, after you made your choice of your partner Pokemon, your rival would pick whatever Pokemon is super effective against yours. This was done to provide a high level of difficulty for the players of the original games, and was also there to encourage the players to train their Pokemon so they could become stronger than their rival, as they both got tougher throughout their journey. As the Dragon type resists all three of the base starter types, Fire, Water, and Grass, making Charizard part Dragon type would effectively make Blastoise have no super effective moves against the Charizard. But other than balancing out the types of the original starter triangle, the lack of Dragon type was also designed to balance out the rarity of Pokemon within the game. You see, back during the development of Pokemon Red and Green, the idea was that owning a Dragon Pokemon would be something truly special, truly rare and truly spectacular, just like finding a dragon in the real world. It would take an incredible amount of time and patience to even find one of these Pokemon, and would take an amazing amount of dedication to level them all the way up to their final form. In the case of Charmander, you're simply given one by Professor Oak when you start your Pokemon adventure. Literally anyone could have one just by beginning a new save file. This is obviously pretty contradictory to the idea that Game Freak had for dragons within the Pokemon franchise. But aside from the practical reasons why Charizard isn't a dragon, if we dive into the inspirations behind Charizard as well as some other dragons in the franchise, it'll become pretty apparent that there's a stark difference between the two. Let's go back to Pokemon Red and Green for a second. The original plan was for the games to only be released within Japan, so when the Game Freak designers were making the original Pokemon, they almost exclusively stuck to using aspects of culture for Japan and other Asian nations. While Charizard bears a striking resemblance to the European dragons that are much more common in the western part of the world, the Japanese dragons that were the inspiration behind many Pokemon look radically different. While European dragons often look like large lizards with wings coming out of their back or connected to their front legs, Japanese dragons on the other hand are much more serpentine in appearance. Often having no wings whatsoever, the snake-like dragons of Asian myth are long, slender, and majestic. They typically have horns and whiskers, and oftentimes their faces resemble any number of animals. Some of their faces even have distinctly human features, but the differences don't end with just their physical appearance. While Western dragons are typically fire breathers that fly using their physical wings, Asian dragons have much closer ties to the oceans and seas, and fly using their magic, which they also use to benefit humanity and to give benefits and prosperity to their most dedicated and loyal followers. And here's where we find one of the truly distinguishing features of dragons within the Pokemon franchise. Pokemon like Charizard use their physical bodies, their physical organs, to create energy to use for attacks. However, within the Pokemon franchise, dragon Pokemon are often depicted as having access to some sort of magical energy force that they can draw upon to create their attacks. Now, this isn't explicitly said anywhere within the Pokemon games, but if you look at many dragon Pokemon, a lot of them are able to fly or at least levitate when their body types and proportions shouldn't allow them to do so. Pokemon with really tiny wings are able to stay up in the air. And on top of this, a lot of the dragons have very vast, expansive move pools that cover a lot of different types. This is a variety that a lot of other Pokemon simply don't have access to. So let's take a look at the only actual dragon Pokemon line from the original games, the Dratini line. Pokemon really wanted to hammer home the idea that these Pokemon are very hard to find and are very rare. Almost all of their dex entries talk about how many people thought they never existed at all. But if we look at the Pokemon themselves, we see that they match up very well to the dragons found within Asian countries. Both Dratini and Dragonair are snake-like in their appearance and are both found in bodies of water in the Kanto region. In addition, they both seem to have at least some access to this magical dragon energy, because they can both use moves of a variety of different types. But you're probably asking yourself about Dragonite. After all, Dragonite is an official Dragon-type Pokemon from Gen 1, and it bears a striking resemblance to Western dragons. So how is this possible if Game Freak was using exclusively Asian dragons for the creation of their Pokemon? Well, even though Dragonite bears a resemblance to Western dragons, there's still a ton of influence from Eastern dragons in there as well. Famous Japanese artist Utagawa Kuniyoshi painted a number of Japanese pictures featuring Japanese dragons. Many of them had humanoid faces with big silly eyes on them. In addition, the Korean Imugi is another type of dragon seen in Asian culture. This one is orange in color and often has an almost exclusively human face. Its human face is known for being very expressive and showing a wide variety of human emotions. And it's believed that after a number of challenges, the Imugi will become a true dragon after 1,000 years. All these connections to Dragonite are just overwhelming. Not only does the coloring and design match up perfectly with Dragonite, but Dragonair's very high evolution level acts as a nod to the fact that the Imugi has to wait 1,000 years before becoming its final dragon form. All of this is further compacted with the beta design for Dragonite, which was recently uncovered by Dr. Lava over on Twitter. Beta Dragonite was still an orange, kind of dopey looking dragon. However, this version had spines running down its back and it was much more hunched over, looking like it's ready to swim rather than go flying. This is clearly a nod to its previous aquatic form. Oh yeah, and Dragonite is often said to be the guardian of the seas, just like the dragons in the real world Asian myths. But let's get back to Charizard. Now we've established that it's not based on Asian dragons or even European dragons, so what is it based on? Well, the name Charizard breaks down to the words char, meaning to burn something, and lizard, meaning, well, lizard. That, didn't really get us anywhere. Let's look at the Japanese name, Lizardon. Well, as we know lizard means lizard, remember to subscribe for awesome revelations like this one! Actually, come to think of it, there is a species of flying lizard native to Asia. They have skin flaps that allow them to glide through the air, almost like they're flying. While this certainly could be an inspiration behind what made Charizard into Charizard, it doesn't really match up aesthetically, so let's keep digging. So lizard from its name didn't really get us anywhere, but what about Don? Well, Don has a couple different meanings throughout a couple different languages. In Greek, Don means tooth, which is certainly something Charizard has, but it also is a suffix used to end the names of a lot of different types of dinosaurs. And it turns out that this dinosaur connection is actually really appropriate. Several of the early Pokemon designers, namely Ken Sugimori, Satoshi Tajiri, and Tsunekazu Ishihara, have gone on record in interviews saying that most of the early Pokemon were based on either dinosaurs or different types of monsters they've seen in Japanese culture, namely kaiju who have faced off against Godzilla at some point or another. You see, just as we have fond nostalgia for the brands and media that we consumed when we were children, the same is true for the designers of the Pokemon franchise. The goal at hand was to create Charizard to be centric towards boys, and to make it very powerful and cool looking in order to appeal to them. In order to achieve this, the designers of Pokemon looked back into their own childhoods with characters that they felt embodied this trait. They looked no farther than the kaiju that faced off against Godzilla, and they had a pretty good inspiration for what they were trying to create. Now, while none of them have ever gone on record saying which dinosaur or kaiju was specifically involved in the creation of Charizard, the resemblance that Charizard bears to the kaiju Rodan is undeniable. Just like Charizard, Rodan is a flying dinosaur with red-orange skin and a yellow underside. It even has two horns that go backward away from the top of its head, just like the two that Charizard has. Oh yeah, and while this kaiju is called Rodan, R-O-D-A-N, in the Western world, in Japanese it's called Rodan. Do you remember Charizard's Japanese name? Lizardon? Lizard and Don? Just like the Don found in Rodan. The connections between these two are everywhere, and it's clear that Rodan at least had some small inspiration in the creation of the final Charizard design that we all know and love today. But if you're still unsure about all of this and still think that Charizard should be a dragon, let me present to you the final nail in the coffin. Back in Gen 6's Pokemon X and Y, Game Freak actually showed us what Charizard's dragon form would look like in the form of Mega Charizard X. Mega Charizard Y remained a fire-flying type just like Charizard, and honestly it's just more of the same. It's still a flying dinosaur kind of kaiju thing, but with just larger horns and larger wings. But let's take a look at Mega Charizard X. It's a dragon. It's a full patch, sworn-in, honest-to-God dragon Pokemon, and it shows. Its color has completely changed to black and blue. Its wings are a lot more intimidating, and it even has fire whiskers made out of blue flame. Game Freak finally gave Charizard what it needed to become a real dragon. And if you've been paying attention to the video, the answer should be super obvious. Magic! Remember how Game Freak loves giving dragons magic? Well, just look at this thing! It doesn't flap its wings to fly anymore, it simply levitates there. And in addition, it has these new fire whiskers. They're made from a magical blue flame that's there even when Charizard isn't using any of its fire powers. With Mega Charizard X, Game Freak showed all the Pokemon fans the world over what Charizard would need in terms of its inspiration and design in order to count itself among the real Dragon-type Pokemon in the franchise. And honestly, this design is such a far cry from the normal Charizard that we've all gotten used to that it really stands out. Effectively, Game Freak just laid out a list of features that Charizard doesn't have that effectively disqualifies it from being a dragon Pokemon. But hey, even if Charizard isn't a dragon, it's still a combination of dinosaurs and kaijus, and it flies around everywhere and breathes fire. It's even gone on to become one of the most popular Pokemon in the entire world, and has more forms than pretty much any other Pokemon in the franchise, with 2 Megas and a Gigantamax form. Heck, Charizard is so beloved that it even had shiny colors changed to black and red from its previous purple and green. You just don't see this kind of love given to many other Pokemon in the franchise. So, even if Charizard isn't an official dragon, I think all the Charizard fans out there are going to be just fine. So there you have it, the reason why Charizard isn't a dragon, but does look a heck of a lot like one. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it interesting, and if you did, remember to absolutely Giga Impact that like button and consider subscribing to the channel in order to become part of our amazing Pokemon community. I've been Blaine for Gaming Explained here at Bridge 4 Games. I hope each and every one of you have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!